off into Creepshow, influenced by a few short stories by Stephen King that are just very much in that tradition. You take that, and then, I'm sorry, this is just so sad, this poor little girl. I feel so bad for her. If there's one thing that a lot of these, like, short segments know what to do, man, that's not a great effect, but I'm sure it's creepy to children. But if there's one thing that these shorts really know how to do, it's how to make you hate a character. You really, really dislike this character not by the end, but really by the end of that little piece of the segment. It's just, you hate the guy so much. He's terrible. But I'm really enjoying this. But to get back onto what I was talking about, so that stuff spins off into Creepshow. Creepshow spins off into this, and then gets a sequel, Creepshow 2, which I think is also a pretty worthy movie. And this show kind of goes kind of downhill by the time that it's spun off into Tales from the Darkside, the movie, which I also think is a good movie. But the series really kind of starts to go downhill at that point. And then you change from Tales from the Darkside, the movie, that spins off into a series called Monsters. And then Monsters, not Monsters, but and then Tales from the Crypt kind of comes up, the TV show. And then there's Tales from the Crypt movies, 3 of them, and Tales from the Crypt cartoon. There's some great stuff, really, really great stuff in here. It's really interesting to kind of trace the influence back. Then, of course, if you really go far enough back, I mean, a lot of this is all influenced kind of by the short stories of Edgar Allan Poe and M.R. James and H.P. Lovecraft and all these different guys. I'd say Charles Dickens kind of has some influence here. If you didn't know, Dickens wrote a lot more than just a Christmas Carol. He wrote a lot of great short stories that were not Christmas themed. And here, this poor kid. This is where you're really going to start feeling bad for his dad here in just a minute. I mean, his dad seems like a jerk, but he's not. This is all Barnard Hughes' character. This little kid dressed like the devil. Some interesting foreshadowing going on here as well. A lot of this, it's funny because it almost seems feasible. Besides the kind of like almost steampunky looking stuff that the old guy's got going on there. Besides that, like his little central command that's really steampunky and stuff, a lot of this really does look somewhat feasible. I think you'd have to actually have people around, special effects people like they actually have here, people just like pushing stuff out and raising stuff up. But I definitely think this is something that could happen, and I think you could make this work as kind of a fun little thing for kids to enjoy. On a Halloween night. Another one of the episodes directed by Tom Savini, the great makeup effects artist, the bear. That must be what gets him. And here's that little piece where you really start to feel bad for him. And you really see how corrupted the old fella is. Just saying that, if you fail, you shouldn't be loved. It gives you some insight into who he is as a character, too. Really, he's just a broken person, and if somebody had gotten to him earlier, I'm sure if someone had gotten to him earlier and made him a little bit happier, a little bit nicer, a lot of what's going on right now would not be happening. Here we go. It's about to go downhill. There's always an arc for this. It's generally it's kind of a small morality tale. This short little morality tale, all about, you do these bad things will happen to you. It's a karmic kind of reality. You see that pumpkin that had just been, the smile's been turned upside down. This is not very scary, and I think the makeup effects are a little hokey here, but I don't mind. It's got its own charm to it. These lo-fi television special effects. When you go back, you really see how many of these short-lived... Oh, this witch. She does kind of have that creepy cackle, though. And those teeth. But when you go back, especially to the 1980s, you see how many of these anthology shows were on at the time. I mean, you had this that really kind of kicked it off in the 80s. I mean, there was the Twilight Zone revival, Tales from the Crypt, and Monsters, and then eventually in 1990 you had Are You Afraid of the Dark? All this stuff that was so popular back then. I mean, and then stuff that wasn't necessarily a horror anthology, but like Unsolved Mysteries, and, well, I mean, The Hitchhiker, of course, and there's tons and tons of these different shows that were all anthology based, and you don't really have many of those today. I mean, you've got what's it called? You've got the Black Mirror. But that's about it, really. And that's not even on network television. Blowing all that money in his face. He's just grasping at the money when he should be running for his life. This has a way too over the top devil in it, but man, I mean, look at it. So over the top. Some of these effects, though, are not bad. I mean, the devil himself looks a little weird, but the little side demons and stuff look really good. The devil reminds me of him from the Powerpuff Girls. Except, less transgender. I wonder if that show would be considered hateful nowadays. Yeah, see, he looks like he's got, lipstick on. They just beckoned him into hell, and he's just gonna go. It's the only way. The only way. I think it's interesting that they closed the door and they've got the door design that looks like a cross. Like he was condemned by God or something like that. Romero's theology is a bit shaky, but then again, he's a former Catholic, so that makes sense. Not saying anything bad or good towards the Catholic Church right now, just saying that his theology is shaky. And there's the witch. And there are the IOUs. He's got them. and she's flying away. And it looks like such a cheesy special effect. It's so cheesy. And he's just so happy. One thing I don't like about this is how nice they seem to make the witch. Like the witch is just there to punish the evil person and then shower the good person with goods and stuff. I don't think a witch should be a hero, but yeah, really good stuff here. And here lies Gideon Hackles. And that, ladies and gents, is the end of the episode. I hope you enjoyed this. I definitely enjoyed going back and watching it. Who knows, I might do a few more of these this month, just as kind of special things. I don't know. I've enjoyed this. Hope you all did too. I like this episode. I like this series. I think you should definitely go check this out if you haven't. This is around $30 at Walmart. It's every single season of Tales from the Darkside. Check it out. There's some really good stuff in here. There's some really bad stuff too. There's some really good stuff. So I'll hit back at you probably around tomorrow, which should be Saturday, considering I'm gonna upload this on Friday. So rock on. If you like, subscribe. Talk to you later. Bye bye.